Behavior just released the 8.3.0 PTB Dev Diary going live on the next Tuesday, so let's take a look at all the changes we expect to see coming with it. After months of being gone, Behavior is finally introducing the finisher Mori system back again, this time making it optional as you can choose to kill the last survivor if you want without an offering. The Memento Mori offerings now only give you extra blood points. One new change is that now, any objects blocking the Mori will fade away, finally removing the clunkiness of map objects blocking the Mori animation and ruining it, or sometimes censoring it in a funny way. One of the biggest problems with this new system was the fact that the Mori started automatically once you downed the last survivor, and it teleported you to a designated place in the map, which looked terrible and completely broke the flow of the game, as well as removed the chance for killers to give the hatch or the exit gates in case they wanted to. Now that it's optional, this problem is gone. However, it's still sad that you cannot kill survivors during a match as the new offerings are reworked, meaning you can no longer Mori all 4 survivors with an Ebony Mori unless you bring a build that allows you to do so, like Tombstone Myers, Devour Hope or Rancor. This means that the photobombings are possibly gone or will be extremely rare. However, on the plus side, we have to consider one thing I am sure many of you are completely ignoring, and that is the fact that if this rework is good and we have Memento Moris in every 4K match, this will allow Behavior to finally have a reason to rework old Memento Moris like the Trapper, Wraith and Hillbilly, and also potentially add a Memento Mori store with new animations, which is something we have been asking for ever since 2016. The devs have stated in the past that there were no plans to rework any Mori animations because it was too much effort for something so rare in game, but with this new system in place, Moris will happen significantly more. I won't judge this system too harshly, and we will have to see in the PTB, but if this comes out nicely, I can guarantee we will have custom Memento Moris in the future. Now, before talking about the 20 perks that have changed, I wanted to take a look at the killer changes first. The Skull Merchant has received a significant nerf in my opinion, as now the hindered penalty is 5% and she no longer gains haste while scanning a survivor. This is a significant hit on her anti-loop potential, and this will make all her chases last longer, as they didn't give her anything to compensate for this nerf. Additionally, her drone scan lines are now just 1 instead of the 2 she had before. Drones are constantly active and her scan lines are now invisible beyond 16 meters. In other words, they completely gutted her drones, and now you actually have to aim the line by rotating the drones manually if you want to get less than half of the reward you got before. In my opinion, this puts Skull Merchant in an easy D tier or C tier along with Legion and Freddy in terms of how weak she's going to be. They clearly made her gameplay significantly easier for casual players to play against, which was kinda justified as she had the strongest kill rate in the entire game. But this came at the cost of basically removing Skull Merchant out, and if you were decent at the game, you would know that Skull Merchant was not that strong, so basically we got a massive nerf to a killer that was not better than B tier at most. As a survivor main, this is a massive win. As a killer main that actually enjoyed the brain dead playstyle of Skull Merchant, I see no reason to ever play her again, and this puts her in the same position as Freddy. She needs a complete power rework again. Hillbilly got hit with some deserved nerfs after he completely skyrocketed to S tier thanks to his overdrive, a mechanic that many Hillbilly mains agreed was completely unnecessary but a welcome addition. They basically nerfed every single aspect of it a bit, which I don't think will change much as the overdrive mechanic was used in a quick burst instead of it being kept like the main event of Trickster for example. I still think that Hillbilly will keep the S tier ranking as his entire power design is really well done and he has everything an S tier killer needs, which is insane mobility, lethality, and good synergy with a lot of top tier meta perks. So I am okay with these nerfs even though they are going to feel bad. The twins also got a nerf to their lethality, as now the cooldowns of all actions Victor related are longer. This makes sense, as twins are a very strong killer and I am sure their kill rate is significantly higher than their pick rate, which leads to many survivors not knowing what to do to counter them. These changes are okay, and twins are still better than how they were before the quality of life changes either way. If you think these changes are unfair, you probably don't know how strong twins actually are. Thankfully, the Unknown didn't get any significant nerfs besides one that I would like to test in-game, but it received some quality of life changes in exchange. The first one is an improvement of the HUD display when the teleport and hallucination spawn time happens, which is the weird yellow border that appears when you play Unknown. I agree that this was kinda confusing, especially when I played Unknown at the start in the PTB, so making it better is an overall win. The next change is something I am scared about. Basically, for those of you that don't know, you can edge your power with the Unknown in order to spawn hallucinations in the spots you want. This was also used by Unknown players to zone the survivors for free, because as long as you tapped the power, you didn't lose any speed. Now they made it so that edging your power will also reduce your speed, and this can be a nerf to the Unknown, but we will have to test it to see if it's significant. They also increased the recovery speed of teleport by 15%, making the effects of blurry photo partially base kit, and nerfed the two best add-ons for Unknown, which were admittedly way too strong and something everyone was constantly using. And now let's take a look at the 20 perk changes coming with this PTB, and some of them are very spicy, starting with the survivor perks. Teamwork Power of 2 got a big buff, as now the range is increased to 16 meters, there is a lingering effect once you exit this range, and most importantly, the cooldown is completely removed, meaning that as long as you have a duo, you can constantly trigger the effects of this perk, which gives you and your teammate a speed boost. This is still a niche perk, reserved only for players that are playing with their friends, but now it's not a joke perk and actually can be used. The same happened with Collective Stealth. Both the cooldown and the on-hit removal are gone, and also the range is the same, so you can combine both perks to get no scratch marks and a boost of speed. Again, this is still a niche perk used by duos, but now they actually have potential to be fun. Corrective Action got a glow up, as now any failed skill checks will now become great skill checks instead, which can be combined with Hyper Focus or other Gen Rush perks, as it rewards missing skill checks now. I am not kidding when I say this perk might become a problem with a designated build. Inner Focus, a perk that I am sure most of you don't know what it does, got a decent buff, as now it will reveal the aura of the killer for double the time and no longer has any range requirement. Combined with the new Belmont perk, you can basically see where the killer is globally around the map anytime they hit a survivor, making this perk an actually decent choice to help with a survivor macro gameplay. We're Gonna Live Forever now has a 50% extra speed for picking up slug survivors, and by the way, the dev comment here is actually not true. But anyways, additionally, the endurance effect is now cooldown based, meaning this is a straight buff in order to prevent slugging tactics by the killers. This perk went from niche to a very strong niche perk. Poised got a new effect to this perk, as now each time you start repairing a generator for the first time, you will see the aura of the killer for 6 seconds, which again stacks with the Belmont perk. The default effect was also buffed by 4 seconds, allowing you more time to escape or move around the map. I don't think this perk will become meta, but now it's a decent perk for newer survivors, as knowing where the killer is with such an easy activation effect is pretty strong. Blood Rush got a rework and is not now a clutch perk in the endgame, as instead it is now deactivated once the endgame starts. Now, Blood Rush seems to be more of an anti-tunnel perk, as it activates after every unhook, deactivates if you perform a conspicuous action just like off the record, and now no longer heals or provides the broken status effect temporarily. Instead, it's used now to get double the effects of exhaustion perks like Sprint Burst or Lithe, which can be devastating if the killer tactic is tunneling you out of the match. This perk now has a bit more potential than before, as anti-tunneling perks are quite strong overall. Quick Gambit got the glow up of the century, because it went from one of the worst perks, if not the worst perk in the entire game, to a perk I can actually see being meta and extremely annoying, and I am not kidding. First of all, now you can see all survivor auras whenever you're chased, and this perk deactivates for 1 minute if you lose a health state. However, now the Gen Reaper speed bonus is nerfed to 5% in exchange that now the effect is global. That's right, as long as you are getting chased, every single survivor in the match will have a deja vu effect, which if stacked can mean 10% generator repair speed for as long as you are getting chased. In a solo queue environment, this perk will be trash, but against a competitive team that runs you as if the life of their mother depends on it, pre-dropping pallets and playing extremely safe, good luck with that. Thankfully, the 1 minute cooldown might be enough to deter this perk from being a problem. Distortion is finally not free value. Now this perk no longer has tokens as before, and instead it now stays deactivated until the next time you are chased. Now the individual effect is also a bit stronger. Basically, if you are a decent survivor that participates in the match, you will still get the effects of Distortion, but if you are one of those immersed survivors who like to hide around the map with Distortion and mess up with your teammates, well, now you actually have to participate in the match to get value. This is a fantastic change. Lucky Star seems to have gotten a side grade, as it now gives you an on-command lucky break anytime you enter a locker, and this effect lingers for 30 seconds. This perk went from a weird effect with potential to an actually decent stealth perk, giving lockers a more interesting use during a match. And now let's go over the killer perks. Genetic Limits now applies the exhaustion status effect once a survivor loses a health state for 8 seconds. This is a complete rework of the previous effect, and it makes it different to Septic Touch. Now the value is more consistent, it's a complete counter to perks like Dead Heart and potentially a hard counter to Overcome, but I still think it's weaker compared to Languid Touch, as it does not counter Sprint Burst or Lithe as long as they activate the perk before they get hit. Leverage is now a very interesting perk that might lead to tunneling, as it now activates only to the survivor that performs an unhook, as they will suffer from 50% reduced healing speed for 30 seconds. This can be used in order to drastically slow down the healing post unhook and the potential of a reset of killer momentum, and it also seems to stack with perks like Sloppy or Coulrophobia. This perk now actually has potential and decent value. Thwack is now token based and has the same effect as before, the only difference being that now you can save those tokens up for use later. This perk is okay, and the screaming can be very good to interrupt survivors from afar. Machine Learning now finally activates on the first generator broken instead of the second, which allows this perk to be more consistent than before. Combined with the massive buff this perk received earlier this year, we might be looking at a low-key busted perk now. Deathbound got a giga buff, as it will now give the Oblivious status effect to the healer survivor no matter the range, and this Oblivious status effect will last until that survivor is hooked, so you could basically have permanent Oblivious as long as you ignore that survivor. This perk is now actually really strong and for sure usable on various killers. Zanshin Tactics got a complete rework and now will reveal the aura of any survivors for 10 seconds within 6 meters of a dropped pallet within 16 meters of your location. So it went from a perk only used on certain killers to a very strong anti-loop and anti-mind game perk, punishing pre-droppers and allowing certain killers like Pyramid Head or Artist some nasty hits. Very curious to see how this perk performs. Deadman Switch got a side grade that is a huge nerf, as it now only activates for the first survivor that stops repairing a generator, but the duration is now increased by 5 seconds for a total of 50 seconds. This perk is still decent, it will still work with Pain Resonance, but it's not as good as it was before. Blood Echo no longer has a cooldown, and the duration is reduced to 30 seconds, which is still a lot considering it's the exhaustion status effect. This perk now can be activated more, rewarding killers that end chases fast. Hex Crowd Control is now super interesting, as it now permanently blocks the last 5 volts as long as this hex totem is active. In my opinion, this perk is now significantly stronger, and the best part is that one chase might block strong windows for another survivor in a later chase, giving a reason for the killers to try and defend this totem. Super cool and interesting rework. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Predator is finally a good perk, as it now reveals the aura of any survivor that escapes a chase for 6 seconds, and then this perk goes on cooldown for 40 seconds. Considering that this is a free perk that all killers can get, and one of the biggest problems newer players have is not keeping track of survivors they chase, this makes Predator a very good choice for newer players and casuals. This perk could be a direct counter to Distortion, or also as a mind game tool if you force end a chase while mind gaming a survivor. And these are all the changes coming with this mid chapter. It's pretty packed, so let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.